Welcome everyone to the 133rd Celebrity Synastry chart reading, where we will be covering Lyle Menendez and Erik Menendez. If you don't know me, hi, I'm Adeline and it is so nice to meet you. On this channel, I look at the dynamic between two celebrities using astrology. For those new and returning, I take notes on a Synastry chart looking at the personal planet signs aspects and of birth times available house overlays. I share these notes and add my extra insights and interpretations along the way. So if that sounds good to you, subscribe and click the bell, and let's get right into this one. Starting off with the sun, we have Lyle's sun in Capricorn and Erik's sun in Sagittarius. Lyle helps Erik be more realistic and Erik sees Lyle as boring. So I assume that's sort of like, because Erik's the younger one, I potentially that sort of dynamic between younger, older siblings, the older one being more responsible and seen as a bit more boring. Lyle sees Erik as irresponsible and they have contrasting lifestyles. I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm recalling information I heard like a while ago, but I'm pretty sure there was definitely some differences between like their upbringings in terms of like what they went through. I think there was some differences between the two of them, so that is in a way there, because otherwise they did both live fairly privileged lifestyles. Lyle's sun are overlaid in Erik's 5th house. Erik enjoys the adoration from Lyle and Erik has a great love for Lyle. It's characterized by luck and pleasure, which I assume would just be relating to like their social status and everything and the wealth. Lyle defines beauty according to Erik. I wonder if this would be relating to, I'm pretty sure Lyle, the older one, had an issue with like balding and everything. I wonder if maybe like he thought Erik was like the better looking brother, like the, you know, better version of him in a way, like, you know, the younger, better brother and all of that, and potentially felt maybe self-conscious, and like Erik was a bit more of like the conventionally better looking one than him. Lyle may be overlooking Erik's flaws and Lyle sees Erik as a source of pleasure. So he seems to like, you know, have some sort of like adoration from him, you know, some sort of respect from as like an older brother. Erik's sun overlaid in Lyle's 7th house. It's love-hate and they feel united together. Not really surprisingly so. They are deeply moved by each other and they get in each other's heads. They sense that they are complementary, so we're seeing again like complementary contrasting differences. I wonder if maybe there was like a, you know, big key difference in personality. Like from what we're seeing so far, it seems like Erik was a bit more like the extroverted one, potentially a bit more social, as Lyle seems to be a bit more reserved from what we're seeing so far. Not sure if that is the case in real life, but there seems to be some kind of like opposite complementary thing going on here. Both subconsciously try to prove they're separate from the relationship. Yikes. Well, that didn't really work. They feel the other is a big presence in their life, not surprisingly so, and they need to find balance to make the relationship work. I feel like this could be referring to obviously when they were siblings, like they were, you know, together a frequent amount of the time, I imagine, because they were on the younger side. And I feel like it would be related to that. And also, I'm pretty sure there was a period of time where like in prison they were banned from talking to each other or something like that. So I imagine like finding that balance of like, you know, from being together all the time to like no contact at all to like, hopefully, I'm pretty sure now they're able to talk to each other, so finding a bit more of a balance, you know, in between that. They both may be driven to express themselves in extreme ways. I think this is a reading where it really, is the most extreme. You could say that they both express themselves. Possibility of their personalities being lost in their relationship. Yeah, I agree, because like they're more seen as a unit. Even now I'm like, what are their like individual personalities? Because there are like those differences, you know, like the key differences, but nothing really about their personalities as such is out there. Lyle's sun square Erik's Mars, sparks fly, and there's a competitive nature, not really surprisingly. So like from what we know, and like in generally with like two siblings, there's always going to be some competition. There's a tendency to interrupt each other and individual egos create problems. It's productive to work on a mutual goal. You know, I guess like in a way now, like them both trying to like get out of prison and everything. I assume maybe that has brought them together in a bit, maybe brought a bit more balance to their relationship, and it would be productive for them. They both need to stop focusing on the details, and Lyle feels challenged by Erik's dominance. So he seems like Erik has a bit more like potentially like assertive, like whatever the opposite of reserved is, that's what Erik seems to be, or like definitely what Lyle seems to view him as. They need to respect each other's natural habits and over time get more annoyed with each other. Lyle's sun, sextile Erik's Jupiter. Lyle energizes Erik and they are good travel companions. I mean, I'm pretty sure like there was a period of time where they did travel together, because they were from like California somewhere, I want to say. Believe it, like they did travel like to the East Coast. There was something about New York, I think, in this whole case. So like the traveling is there. Erik is generous with Lyle and mutual respect remains after the end. This is a weird one because there really wouldn't be an end to this. It's not like a typical like relationship we're seeing. Like they kind of are tied together, especially in like the way they are now. Like they're very much tied together for life. I wonder if this could be potentially relating to like the period of time where they couldn't talk to each other. Like during that sort of like end, you could say, like mutual respect still was there for the other. They both want to make the other happy, and Erik opens up new doors for Lyle. I'm not sure if this would have been like pre-prison and all of that, potentially, because Erik seems to be a bit more social. You could also see this as with like all the current legal stuff going on. Potentially Erik had some kind of maybe different connections that he passed on to Lyle or something like that. Erik boosts Lyle's confidence, which is nice because I feel like Lyle seems to be not jealous, but like he seems to feel like he's in the shadow of Erik. Lyle's sun, Trine Erik's Saturn. They work well together and it's a sensible relationship. Erik is loyal to Lyle and Erik guides Lyle with his wisdom. So we're seeing again, like it's odd to see. I wonder if we'll see more of obviously, but like so far from what we're seeing, it seems like Erik is the one that kind of has like the upper hand in a way, a little bit more dominance, even though he's like the younger brother, which can work, but it's just an interesting thing. They both desire to build a lasting relationship, which I guess understandably so for your siblings. There's sometimes is that sort of desire to like, this is my sibling, my blood, basically. Some people, have that desire to have that lasting relationship. Lyle is encouraging and supportive of Erik, and Lyle is drawn to Erik's maturity, which, yeah, I feel like that's a good way to put it, because like, even though Erik is the younger one, he seems to be a bit more on the mature side, the more assertive side, as I keep saying. Challenges are dealt with perseverance, which is what I imagine has been happening for a long time. Lyle's sun square Erik's Uranus. It's not predictable or stable, and separation occurs and causes strain. Yeah, like we did see the mutual respect remains, but I'm sure like there would definitely be strain, particularly since neither of them necessarily chose to be separated. Erik feels trapped by Lyle over time. Interesting. The relationship can start and end suddenly. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, yeah, that's very much so, especially for Lyle. Suddenly you have like a younger brother, and obviously like, the relationship in a way did end suddenly. They cannot rely on each other in the long term. I mean, in certain ways, yeah, because I think they have been allowed to like communicate with each other. I don't believe they've been actually allowed to like visit each other, which is like a different, type of communication and like, dynamic to have, and different place where you can rely on someone, if that makes sense, like rather than just talking to someone through like letters or the phone. Lyle grows tired of Erik's inconsistency, and Erik changes and challenges Lyle's life. Yeah, I assume, when he was born, that would have shifted some things for Lyle. Lyle initially finds Erik appealing. Yeah, I assume this would have been when they were younger. Like, I'm sure, potentially like Erik would have had, some happiness to have like a new sibling and all of that when he was younger. But because from what we have been seeing, it seems like there is a bit of like, I guess, jealousy when it comes to Lyle for Erik. So I assume like as he got older, that appeal of having a younger brother like went away. Erik's Sun conjunct Lyle's Venus. There's mutual respect and it's an accepting relationship. I mean, it would really have to be, wouldn't it? They share common interests and they're financially lucky people. Yeah, that's, I think, a good way to put it. Like, yeah. Because they didn't necessarily, like, I don't believe, like, they ever had any sort of, like, wealth of their own, so to speak. Like, it's not like they were the ones that were making the money. They were, you know, of their parents, essentially, like, financially lucky. Erik encourages Lyle's creativity, and Lyle finds Erik charming. So we're seeing, again, Erik seems to be a bit more, like, social and maybe a bit more, like, you know, charming, charismatic, you could say, and Lyle doesn't feel he's the same way in that way. Erik's Sun square Lyle's Mars, so this is a repeated aspect, just inverted, so everything from before is further emphasized. But also Erik feels challenged by Lyle's dominance, which we did kind of see how he feels trapped by Lyle over time. Erik's Sun square Lyle's Jupiter. They have different values and they may overindulge each other, which I assume this was the period of time where they were quite excessive with like their wealth and their money and all of that. Lyle has the ability to cheer up Erik and the excess is from good intention. They have a strong desire to make each other happy, which we're seeing again. Erik's Sun trine Lyle's Saturn, so this is another repeated aspect, just inverted. So everything from before is further emphasized, but also Lyle is loyal to Erik and Lyle guides Erik with his wisdom. I'm sure Lyle surely would have something, like, because for all we're seeing is like Erik just seems to be a bit more like out there. He's a bit more social. He just has a bit more like, I guess, confidence you could say about him, assertion. That doesn't mean, even though we haven't seen it, doesn't mean Lyle doesn't have his own things to offer to Erik, you know? Erik is encouraging and supportive of Lyle. Erik is drawn to Lyle's maturity. So this would be, I imagine, in a different way, just like because he is like the older, more mature brother, literally.
Now for the intermission. This video is brought to you by me, my Etsy store, Adeline the Astrologer. If you ever watch this and think, hey, I would like her to read my Synastry chart, well, I will. I do personalized Synastry readings on my Etsy store, both basic and detailed. The basic one is very simple to understand. It's not overwhelming at all. It's pretty good for those that are beginners to astrology, just getting the head around astrology, or just as a fun gift idea. The detailed one is just like what I do on my channel, just a lot of insight and interpretation on your chart. So if you are interested in that and everything else astrology and tarot related, readings and gifts, then definitely check out my Etsy store. Links are below. I'm always releasing new things, so definitely check it out if you're interested. You can even just favorite the store just to show your support for free. Thanks for listening, and let's get back to the reading.
So now it's time for Moon. We have Lyle's Moon in Taurus and Erik's Moon in Scorpio. There's a potential to become close and there's a strong magnetic connection. I mean, it's certainly a very unique, you know, connection to have as siblings. There is that certain, I don't want to say like magnetism necessarily, but there is that strong connection you do have. They need to learn to appreciate each other and they both have a tendency to be possessive. Lyle doesn't understand Erik's deep emotions, which I feel like this could be potentially relating to. I don't normally do this in readings, but like with moon signs, generally like a lot of people, you know, do associate moon signs with like your moon sign is a reflection on your relationship with your mother. And I do find it interesting because I'm pretty sure the younger one, Erik, he did, you know, struggle a lot due to his mother a bit more than Lyle. And he's the one with the moon in Scorpio, which moon in Scorpio is, you know, the sort of mother wound, for lack of better words. It is the zodiac sign that is, you know, most associated, and the moon sign most associated with having difficulties with your mother compared to other zodiac signs. So I wonder if Lyle having this lack of understanding of Erik, like there is that just difference in what they struggled with and like what happened to them. Hopefully that all made sense. Lyle's moon overlaid in Erik's 9th house. Lyle idolizes Erik. Yeah, which we've been seeing. Lyle brings out the best in Erik and Lyle feels Erik is out of his league. I wonder if there was like, I mean, it seems to be that way, like a major difference in like social temperaments. Like I wonder if Lyle was like maybe more of like a homebody compared to Erik, and maybe Erik like pulled Lyle out and like Lyle felt very out of it in like Erik's world and social, groups and everything. There's a possibility for long distance, not surprisingly so, and Erik may become emotionally attached to Lyle. Also, not really surprising. Erik may become dependent on Lyle, and they share similar attitudes on politics and religion, which I feel like would definitely help them with their like current case, because like as far as I know, like generally speaking, but I think particularly in America, like politics and the law are very like intertwined and all of that. So it is good that, at least they're on the same page with that and where they want to be going moving forward. There's mutual respect and admiration. Erik's moon overlaid in Lyle's 7th house. It's an accepting atmosphere, and Erik feels secure with Lyle. So we're seeing again that sort of dependence Erik seems to have with Lyle. They want to be together frequently and they complement each other, which we are seeing again with the whole complementary, like opposite thing. And also wanting to be together frequently. I wonder if that goes back to how like they need to find that balance with each other. Potentially when they were younger, they wanted to be together quite frequently, which proved to be maybe not quite right for them. Lyle likes Erik's quirks, and Lyle wants to support Erik, which I believe we're seeing again. And Lyle finds Erik enjoyable. Their moon signs are opposite to each other, so they have contrasting emotional needs. I wonder, because we did see like Lyle doesn't really understand Erik's emotions. We did just see that. But we did also see like contrasting lifestyles. I'm not sure how it exactly goes in prison, but I wonder if they have like contrasting emotional needs, and we did see they have contrasting lifestyles. I wonder if maybe one, it seems like Erik potentially, maybe as a part of his like program or like timetable schedule, potentially he's in a lot more like therapy, a lot more sort of like rehabilitation, like therapy type, things than Erik. And that is where they potentially have like the contrasting lifestyles and all of that. Excellent communication is needed, and it's difficult to be in sync. Certain habits will be unbearable for the other. Lyle's moon opposite Erik's Jupiter. The emotions can get out of control. I mean, that's one way to put it. There's unkept promises, which I assume this will be relating to like, because they did try to like hide what they did, and like there was that promise to like not tell anyone or anything. And I'm pretty sure it was the younger one, Erik, that ended up like essentially snitching on them. So I assume it would relate to that. Their beliefs are conflicted, which I assume would just be how they went about what they did. Lyle may smother Erik, and they both think the other is a bad influence. Interesting. Lyle's moon conjunct Erik's Saturn. Lyle feels an emotional need to maintain long-term commitment. So I assume like when like the whole separation occurs and causes strain, I wonder if that is a bit more on Lyle's end. He is more like desiring a bit more connection with Erik. Erik wants to guide Lyle, and Erik is protective of Lyle. Lyle may be either upset with this help or accepting of it. Hard to say, because he seems to be a bit more on the jealous side of things than anything else. So it's hard to say if like he's happy with the help, or if it's just contributing to his jealousy that his brother has something he has that he can help him with, if that makes sense. It's a relationship based on mutual respect, and Erik gives practical support rather than emotional support. Yeah, so I'm wondering, like, because we did see how Erik opens up new doors. I wonder if, like, again, maybe a social thing, but also in like the current day of things, like potentially like literally practical support for like helping them get out, and Lyle as well. Lyle's moon trine Erik's Pluto. It's an intense meeting, which obviously, I mean, yeah, the birth of a new person into the world is pretty intense. I wonder if there was potential maybe, because obviously some births like can be a bit more intense than others. I wonder if maybe Erik was one of them. They both will need to let go of fake personas, and they both bring truth and change in social and political areas together. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely what's happening at the moment. You could even say like back in the day that conversation was opened up, about, you know, like things happening in the home and like domestic issues and all of that. There's a strong bond and they're involved in organizations together, which I mean, I don't know if they can join any organizations like with where they're at now, but I imagine if there is that place where they will, if that, you know, universe, that future exists, I imagine they would do some organizations together. They can solve problems in the community and they can go through difficulties together, and they both can transform each other, which I feel like is a bit hopeful, you know, this whole aspect for anyone who is like hoping they do get, you know, released and all of that. This is a bit more hopeful, but you know, you could also see like what they've done already and like what, you know, has happened, you know, did contribute to the whole social atmosphere in certain ways. Erik's moon is sextile Lyle's Mercury. They have long conversations and there's a mutual understanding. There's a friendship and they feel comfortable being open with each other. Yeah, I'm not getting that like they're particularly uncomfortable. Like we did see Lyle with his he seems to not be as receptive to Erik's emotions. That could just be, you know, like you talk about not the deeper things potentially, you know, and all of that, and potentially Erik would have hid some things away from Lyle. I'm pretty sure like they both hid certain things from each other, so I assume like outside of that they were quite comfortable with everything else. They both like a busy environment and they value the other's opinion and advice. Erik's moon is square Lyle's Mars. It's a stormy relationship and an emotional roller coaster. That's one way to put it. They both will need to work out issues as they come, and Lyle doesn't have the patience to connect with Erik's feelings. We're seeing again that Lyle has this like emotional detachment to Erik in a way, or like detached to emotionally support him. They're very reactive to each other, and there's a possibility for codependency, which like we did see going right back to the beginning. They're trying to prove themselves separate and everything, which didn't really work. It's not necessarily codependency though, I would say. I mean, you know, it could be in their own dynamic. We're not there with them. Lyle's independence makes Erik feel insecure, which you could read this as, I'm not sure if there were plans for either of them moving out of the family home and all of that, but I wonder if like Erik was quite insecure, like if Erik left, like what was going to happen to him, because, you know, he's alone there, like with no support essentially, because, you know, that would help, I imagine, a little bit to have someone else like struggling with you essentially, you know, instead of just being left all alone. It's hard to relax together and resentment can grow. Erik's moon is sextile Lyle's Uranus. It's not a boring relationship and they share common eccentric friends. They talk about social and political issues and mutual friends may bring them together, which, you know, potentially this could be relating to like them reuniting together. Erik creates a loving environment for Lyle. Erik's moon conjunct Lyle's Neptune. Erik makes Lyle feel safe and Erik is possessive of Lyle, which we did see the possessiveness once, so that's repeated. Lyle expects unconditional understanding and there is emotional dependency. I feel like we haven't seen a whole lot. It seems like it doesn't seem like Erik necessarily is wanting emotional connection from Lyle. It's just Lyle doesn't seem open to that at all. But we did see like a Lyle feels an emotional need to have that, you know, connection with Erik. They may lose themselves in each other, not surprisingly so. And art is a shared interest, which I think we saw how Erik encourages Lyle's creativity. I wonder if maybe they both like paint in prison. That's like a fairly common hobby. They sense and feel each other, and Erik feels that Lyle cannot fulfill his needs for stability. Okay. They idolize each other, and Lyle finds it easy to read Erik. Erik's moon is sextile Lyle's Pluto. The relationship feels faded, which you could see this as like when, like, you know, Erik was born and everything, but also potentially they felt like it was fate that they were reunited together and allowed to speak to each other again. Both their irrational sides come out. That is one way to put it. The relationship presents an opportunity for both to heal from the past. Yeah, I guess like definitely their current relationship as it has grown, I feel like it's definitely, yeah, like that would, I imagine, be one of their main focuses. There's an intense meeting we're seeing again, and there's a strong bond, and they're involved in organizations together. So now it's time for Mercury. We have Lyle's Mercury in Capricorn and Erik's Mercury in Sagittarius. Lyle encourages Erik to focus on physical aspects of life. Erik resents Lyle for his criticism, so I assume there is that, like, you know, oh, he's my mature brother, but also not a fan. Lyle sees Erik as impractical, and Erik sees Lyle as someone with no vision. They help each other with their strengths. Lyle's Mercury overlaid in Erik's 5th house. Lyle is like the sun to Erik, and Lyle makes Erik's day. They both encourage each other, and there is easy communication. It's not a boring relationship. Again, one way to put it. Erik's Mercury overlaid in Lyle's 8th house. Erik can hurt Lyle with words. Yeah, I mean, typical sibling dynamic, honestly. Like, these sort of things, it's like, there's clear and precise conversation, and Erik is prone to dominating conversations, which seems to be his personality in general, so it's not really surprising that's, like, I guess, seeping through to how he speaks. Lyle takes conversation seriously, and the conversation tends to get deeply quickly. Lyle's Mercury square Erik's Mars. They challenge each other, and their differences cause irritation. Debates quickly turn into arguments, and Erik has a habit of interrupting Lyle, which, yeah, going back to how he, you know, dominates conversations and all of that. Erik tries to force his opinion on Lyle, and Lyle is too critical of Erik, which I'm pretty sure we're seeing that again. Living together is difficult. Yeah, like, I think we're seeing, like, the love-hate throughout this. Like, it's not surprising that they're siblings, but it is also, like, a odd dynamic considering, like, you know, even though living together is difficult, we did see, like, Erik, Lyle's independence makes him insecure. So there is this, like, it's difficult, but we need to stick together sort of mentality, it seems like. Lyle's Mercury sextile Erik's Neptune. There is easy communication, and they share creative interests, which is, I seem like artistic hobbies they would have, like, at the moment in prison. They both enjoy talking about art streams and spirituality, and they just get each other. I mean, I'm sure they would. Like, they have a very unique bond. I don't know if there is, I'm sure there would be, but you know, these two are definitely the most famous, like, you know, siblings in their position. Lyle's Mercury trine Erik's Pluto. They have deep conversations, and there's a revealing of deep, dark secrets here. Healing negative beliefs about relationships. I mean, yeah, again, like, you hope so after everything. Erik helps Lyle open up his mind, and it's a therapist-patient relationship, which, like, we did see that Erik is, like, not really interested in providing emotional connection to Lyle. I wonder if this is purely in, like, a sort of, like, venting psychological sense, like, because they're able to share very unique experiences together. So I wonder if it is mostly coming from that sort of place rather than, like, emotions. They get to the bottom of matters, and they feel very close to each other. They resolve difficult issues together. I mean, yeah, one way to put it, in different scenarios, you could say, like, obviously with what they did and everything, you could read that as, like, they had a difficult issue to resolve together. But also, like, now, you know, with all the, like, legislation and all of that sort of legal stuff going on now, I'm sure that would be difficult for them. Lyle is fascinated with Erik's depth, and Erik appreciates Lyle's humor and easygoing nature. Erik's Mercury square Lyle's Pluto. There's frequent intellectual arguments. Yeah, I mean, we've been seeing, haven't we? Erik feels controlled by Lyle, which I believe we're seeing again. Like, Erik feels trapped by Lyle over time and all of that. They both may hold onto issues for too long, and Erik is overwhelmed by this dynamic. Erik wants to understand Lyle deeply, and Lyle wants to know Erik's secrets, which is odd that he doesn't seem to care to, like, connect with Erik, but wants to know his secrets and all of that. A bit odd. Lyle tries to control Erik's thoughts. So now it's on to Venus. We have Lyle's Venus in Sagittarius and Erik's Venus in Scorpio. Lyle's lack of affection is frustrating for Erik, so I assume this would be in the emotional sense, because, You know, this is the first time we're seeing Erik that he's frustrated and doesn't appreciate it, but we have been seeing Lyle doesn't seem to be interested in providing that for Erik. Lyle may feel trapped by Erik, so they both feel trapped by each other. Lyle appreciates Erik's depth, we're seeing again, and it's a stimulating but rocky relationship. Lyle's Venus overlaid in Erik's 4th house. Lyle feels the need to protect himself from Erik, and Erik senses Lyle's hesitancy. That's interesting. Considering I feel like the notes we've seen about Lyle as well, it seems like they're both wanting to like protect each other, also like that they both instigated the idea, for lack of better words. There's strong magnetism, and uncertainty and tension characterizes the relationship. Erik's Venus overlaid in Lyle's 7th house. Erik sees Lyle as its complementary, and Lyle feels comfortable around Erik. Erik satisfies Lyle's needs, and they both want to please each other, which we're seeing again with the wanting to make each other happy. Lyle's Venus sextile Erik's Uranus. Erik likes to keep the relationship exciting, and they share unusual interests, which we've been seeing like throughout the reading. They share those like artistic interests and all of that. They're an unconventional couple, which I've said before, they are definitely in a very unique position as a couple. Lyle is drawn to Erik's unique qualities, which I think we're seeing again, and Erik feels appreciated by Lyle. Erik finds Lyle charming. So now it's on to Mars. We have Lyle's Mars in Pisces and Erik's Mars in Libra. The relationship lacks decisiveness. I'm sure in some ways, potentially, not in others. Erik defends Lyle, and it's a passive relationship, and Lyle is charmed by Erik, which we did see that he finds Erik charming, so it's there again. Lyle's Mars overlaid in Erik's 6th house. Lyle energizes Erik, and they exercise together. So again, I'm not sure if they are, how like close they are now. Like, well, first of all, they did sports together at a young age. But potentially, I don't know if they're able to physically see each other, but, you know, like, you know, exercising together, like, in the exercise yard, not sure. But, yeah, that just came to my head as well. Like, they did a lot of sports together, so that makes sense. Erik can see through Lyle, and they're relaxed and calmer around the other. And Lyle is flustered around Erik, which I assume is coming from that place of, like, a bit of jealousy and all of that. Erik's Mars overlaid in Lyle's 6th house, so this is a repeated overlay, just inverted, so everything just before is further emphasized, but also Erik energizes Lyle. Erik is flustered around Lyle, which we've seen a little bit on Erik's end. He kind of idolizes Lyle, not as much as Lyle for Erik, but we have seen that a bit on Erik's end as well. Lyle can see for Erik, which we've seen on Lyle's part repeated that he can read Erik. Lyle's Mars square Erik's Neptune. Circumstances in meeting were never understood by one of the partners. I mean, obviously when Erik was born, like, you know, although he was there, he wasn't necessarily super present and all of that, so like in that way he wouldn't have necessarily understand how they met really. But you could also see this as like when they were reunited together and allowed to speak again, potentially one of them maybe wasn't privy to as many things or something like that. They need honesty to make this work. So that was the final aspect, bringing us to the end of the reading. If you are still watching, please share your thoughts below. I would be curious to see what you guys have to say about this one. I feel like this one generally a bit more well-versed than other readings we've done, but if you have any other different perspectives, if you follow the case a bit more closer, definitely let me know your thoughts on this. If you have made it this far, please consider subscribing for more. I post these readings weekly, and besides that, give this video a like, and I will see you guys next time. Bye! And a shout out to my astrology enthusiast, Monkey Girl. Thank you for supporting the channel. If you would also like a shout out and get early access to new videos, click the join button below to join the membership. There are 2 tiers, the observers and the enthusiasts. All that will be in the information in that button. And thank you again, Monkey Girl, for supporting the channel.